IanXIlyana here, human rights activist, LGBTQIA, a icon, environmentalist, musician. I thought I would come back to do a sing along, but also to talk about the importance of a credible space program. Right now, we have, at least in this country, NASA, and they're not going to Mars. They're not trying to go to Mars. They're not trying anything. And because they're not trying, people are suffering. People are suffering because we need hospitals on Mars. We need schools on Mars. We need farms on Mars. And we also need the ability to say that Earth is far. Speaking as someone with PTSD, I know the importance of social distancing. But we still haven't learned our lessons from COVID and the monkeypox pandemics. Having foreign trade is a luxury. It is a luxury. Because you think that you're just buying goods and services, you're not. You're also buying the disease that exists in those areas, and then you're spreading that. What if there was an opportunity to just cut that off? Cut off the need to expose our country to foreign powers for their influence and for their disease. I don't know, President Trump is talking about economic sanctions on China. But it just makes me think, all you're really doing is just making it more expensive for Americans to buy goods. It doesn't really dissuade them from doing so. It doesn't dissuade Americans from doing business with China. If we are to assume that that was even the true origin of COVID. And it goes to something a little bit deeper. Hello, Dylan. Hello, please. Please, Ashika. How are you, dude? It goes into something deeper. Disease can come out of any country. Any country. So why are we risking things? Why? Number one, we're not really going local for our goods and services. So that's an issue in itself. Two, travel is problematic. Unless we decide to go to Mars and live there. Make a go of it. Make a go of space. Hi, Dylan. I am talking about Mars. I always talk about Mars. Even X brings me a social feed of Mars because that's all I care about. I used to care about maybe finding someone, a wife perhaps, or a husband. I go both ways. And raising a family. But this country, with everything that goes on, oh, and by the way, I have melanin, so that will just screw up my life, but then the lives of all of my children. Because to grow up with melanin in America is to always have a target on your back, because they don't want you to be a clever person of color, because a clever person of color invents, a clever person of color leads, and sometimes they leave. like I am. I'm a clever, indigenous person of color who's saying, I would rather live on Mars. I'm an engineer. I can live on Mars. I can make that happen. So that is what I'm going to do. Because I'm looking at America and I just don't see the country that I want. The country that I want is the country that has that awakening inside. And by the way, hello, Katie. Hello there, Mogmaster. I'm a civil engineer, electronic engineer, and a space engineer. So just engineering in general, I'm fascinated with. But I want America to have that awakening that what goes on around them matters. Environmental issues matter. Politics matter, but not in the way you think. I want people to, for a second, suspend disbelief and just say, the walls that you're in right now, the room that you're in, take care of that. And then expand that to the house that you live in, expand that to the town that you live in. Take care of your towns. Because if anything that you have learned from the years of pandemic, you can be quarantined and that can be all you see and all you have. So why not take it upon ourselves to revitalize our cities and towns, start rebuilding roads and buildings and everything. We need to rebuild in America. And if they're not going to rebuild in America, I don't want to live here. I don't want to live in a country that just says, bridges don't matter. We can let the bridges rot so cars go over it, whatever. It'll collapse. Who cares? It'll be a tragedy. We'll pay the money. We'll pay the families money. That's how we do things. Stadiums, people come and people go. There's not that many people who go to sporting events anyway. So if the rivets that hold the stands in place fall apart, rot, rust, who cares? Who cares? I care. I care that in this nation, we're not doing everything that we're supposed to do to take care of it. Do I think that everyone should just pick up a hammer and just say, I'm going to fix the bridge myself? No, that's not really practical. But I live in a state of California that is so arrogant that it set fire to Los Angeles 5 times in a row, and then it set an extra fire for San Diego just so they, wouldn't feel left out. Because that's the attitude that they have here in California, that they would set fire, burn animals, burn birds alive, rather than admit that they have to do something about the pollution. They have to do something about the lack of humidity, the lack of water, the lack of precipitation. I was shocked this morning when I went by the local car wash. And I don't really pay attention to it because, why would I? I don't own a car. But there is a little patch of greenery. And it had rained here a couple of times. Not a lot, but a couple of times. And you should see how high these plants are. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It hasn't really rained as much since. It's not really raining all the time. But it rained enough that those plants are alive and thriving. And it gives me hope. It makes me think that California could always be saved. All right, I am going through some comments. Wow, you're cool. Thank you for that. Purple rain, purple rain. I should. Thank you. Hi there, Mark. And we have to talk about the ecology because it's not just a bunch of do-gooders saying, oh, the trees, man, the trees. I mean, I love that hippie idea of, just hug a tree and, things will be better, but it's a little bit more complex than that. There's something fundamentally wrong with how we're living our lives because most of us are unhappy, but we don't understand why. And one of the reasons why is because we are cut off from who we used to be. We used to be people who enjoyed going outside. Not just enjoyed, we had to be outside. And we used to engage with nature, find a balance, and say things like, I chopped down one tree and that was enough. I chopped down 10 trees, but that was enough. They are clearing entire forests. For what? So that people can still send letters in the mail. Half of that is junk mail that you could just throw out. But when you throw it out, it just goes to a landfill. And I have a petition, change.org/LA waste is wealth. And I have that there because those landfills are ticking time bombs. The longer we let them sit there, the more they grow. And isn't that the same case for people here? I think of people like me who have been deeply affected by trauma. I'm an artist, so as deeply affected as I am, I cry, I have rage fits, but eventually I settle down and I say, no, I'm not going to eat the emotion of being sexually abused by the United States Air Force at Lackland. I'm going to create something beautiful so that I can take those feelings and put them into something and I don't have them anymore. I acknowledge them and then I put them into something and then I let that go. Does that work every single time? No, which is why I spend most of my time crying and scrubbing myself because I will never feel clean again after being sexually abused by the United States Air Force. But there are other people who have the same trauma, and how do they get through? Who do they turn to? Do they have any healthy ways to express themselves and express what they're feeling? And most of them don't. We need to change that. We need to change how we deal with grief, how we deal with trauma, and how we are dealing with the changes that this entire planet is going through. Things are becoming hotter, much more hot, and it's affecting disease patterns. It's affecting migration of animals, and it's affecting. Oh my God, I can't even fucking speak. It's affecting our brain chemistry. So I think it's just the right thing to do to say, well, if the planet is like that, why don't you just go to the next one? Because there's another planet right there. And I don't care if people are saying it's 130, miles away or whatever. I actually, I can look it up. I mean, here I am trying to throw a number out there like it really matters. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Give it a sec. Really? Oh, come on. Just this thing. It's always something. Okay, I don't know what your issue is then. I really dislike technology sometimes. All right, let's try that again. Like I said, I'm just going to look it up. There's no sense in just pontificating about it and saying an arbitrary number. Oh, I was right. 140 million miles away. Give or take. That is what I'm talking about, Kakit 7. This is what I'm talking about. If no one has that level of drive that I have right now, you'll never go. No one will ever go. And then you'll just say to yourself, another year, oh, it's an election year. Oh, everybody scramble, election year. Who the fuck cares when you got another planet? Like, let us just get to that point because we're not the same people anymore. We outgrew nations. The moment we stepped on the moon. The moment we stepped on the moon, you look back at that moment and you just say, oh, that was an amazing thing. But it's species changing because it says that you can go to another place, that you can leave the planet. And somehow we lost that feeling. We completely lost it. And Mars, okay, let me explain to you something about Mars. Mars is beautiful beyond belief. It's beautiful beyond belief because it is wide open, untouched, and the views at night are beyond anything. You could see the entire Milky Way practically from there. There's no interfering light pollution. You can feel a part of something. Plus, there would be space, more than enough space. Okay, Kakit 7, you don't even really breathe the air here. Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's be honest. Kakit 7, I'm probably mispronouncing your name, but K Hackett 7, perhaps. Anyway, I'm still going to call you 7. I'll call you 7. All right, 7. We're not even really breathing air here. I'm in a room right now. I'm not breathing air. What I want you to think about is it's not the same exact thing as being in a forest. If you're in a forest, that's real air. I will not accept anything that Jaden, that's a very good question. I will get to it. I will not accept anything that says that what you experience when you're indoors is the real truth of how you're supposed to live. That's recycled air, and most of it is just extra carbon dioxide. You live in a room, you live in a cubicle, you live in a cube. Just, you squared off your life. That's what it is. And if you think of it that way, what is the difference? Have you ever changed an apartment? Have you ever lived in a hotel instead of your house? What do they have? They have four walls around you. They have a bathroom. They have a sink. They have a shower. Do they have that? Okay. You can put that on Mars. It's not that difficult. Everything that you have on Earth at this point, you can have on Mars. Except when you go to Mars, you can say, we don't need cars. We don't need cars, we don't need trains, we don't need planes, we don't need anything except for what is absolutely necessary. We can just skip all that. The Romans had to build roads because they had to march people up and down the European countryside doing whatever. They had to do that. They had to dig and build roads. Okay, I love Seven. I love Seven. I feel that like I'm a Martian here. We need Starbucks. If you really want Starbucks that badly, they're so good with their company. They said, we have our customers addicted to the customer service and the quality of the beverages, whatever. We have brick and mortar stores that they can go to. We also have that available in every convenience store, every supermarket, every deli. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can go to a bar and say, no, I want a Starbucks espresso, and they will reach into the little mini fridge and they will pour it for you. What else do you need? You see, this is why I have to do a podcast, and I do this podcast often, because as much as I hate LA, and I really do, these people are just wacky enough to maybe say, I would go to Mars. And celebrities are smart enough to realize that Los Angeles is not where it is anymore, which is why they're taking their asses all the way down to Atlanta. They're taking their asses all the way to Canada. They're going to New Zealand. They're not really doing much stuff here in LA. And those who are, they're fools, because LA is fucked up beyond belief, and it'll fuck you up too. All right, I'm gonna get to your question. Do you like Chick-fil-A? Chick-fil-A was against the LGBTQ, and ever since I haven't bought it. Same with Papa John's. You know, if someone says something that is extremely homophobic, whatever, and honestly, I say stuff that is extremely racist, if not racial. And guess what? If people don't like my music and they want to boycott me, great. I don't have that many people listening to it anyway, so it really doesn't affect me. And I will continue to say what I say. And they feel the same exact way. They're not repentant, you know. Or sorry, no, repentant. I don't know, I'm adding syllables. I am loopy right now. I am not sleeping well just being here, because I'm just frustrated. I'm absolutely frustrated, because it was what, the 1960s, 1970s, we had a space program. We had a space program that was giving hope to people, giving hope. All these kids growing up and saying, oh, I'm going to be an astronaut. And I saw recently some Asian astronaut, good for him, Navy, and you know, he's going on his mission into space. And all I can say is, to do what? To do what? What the fuck do you people do anymore? What do you do? Because I'm looking at Mars and I don't see anybody on it. And that should be priority one. Priority one for every human being on this planet should be go to the next one. Why? Because if you go to the next one, then you let go of everything. Everything. I don't know if you are aware of this, but people and jobs are changing, absolutely changing. People are losing jobs and they're not retraining into new ones. They're not motivated to it. They're not trying to do anything else. But there's still people who live here. What if you offer them a challenge? What if you offer them a way to take whatever skills they have and maximize it and actually get a better return than money? I mean, I'm trying to get my disability benefits so I can build my spaceship and go to Mars. And I have no problem saying that out loud. Do you work for SpaceX? I wouldn't work for SpaceX because SpaceX is obsessed with those stupid fucking phallic rockets. Every day it's, have you seen the giant Dragonfire rocket? Have you seen that it went up and it creates such a big boom boom? And I just don't care, because I'm going to read to you that stat again. The average distance between Earth and Mars is approximately 140 million miles. So 140 and then a bunch of zeros. And you know what those zeros are? You see, I used to think that those were placeholders so you would know the true value of the number, but I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think those zeros represent all of those automaton drones that they have at SpaceX and NASA who aren't doing anything except building a rocket, sending it into space, letting it come back, building a rocket, and that's all they do. They're not trying to make solar sails more viable. They're not trying to build my commute or my gravity well. They're not trying anything. So, oh, yes. Let me get back to your question. You didn't ask a question. Whoa. Aren't those rockets meant to get to Mars, though? 7? That is, I'm sorry, I blew right over that. That's the problem that I have with America and American scientists. I'm an American scientist, but not really, because I can't put myself in the same camp of the people who look at a number like 140 million miles and say, I think your math is off. I think you're measuring it as if you would measure how fast a horse could run to Mars. Do you want to ride a horse to Mars? Because that is the attitude that America is telling the world by not going to Mars in the fastest means possible. And the fastest means possible is several things, but we could at least start with the solar sail. Imagine the amount of thrust if you had a solar sail the size of America. With all the resources that you could stick on that. 7, can you tell us about your spaceship? I am trying my hardest to win the Nobel Prize for my inventions, so what I will say is I will not be using rockets because rockets are a redundant and at this point, a secondary system to what I would like to install. Although I have several petitions that are components of what I'm building. So feel free to look at Genius to Mars, change.org/Genius to Mars, or change.org/You Belong on Mars. I'm an engineer who is very serious about just sweeping the floor with the NASA and SpaceX and just showing people what genius can do. And I hate that this country is holding me back. Like, I don't understand it. You know, if they just gave me my disability benefits, I'd be on Mars by now. Like, I know what I'm doing. I could do it by myself. But instead, I have to go through such a rigmarole over this while LA women keep fucking jumping out at me for no goddamn reason. And all I want to do is say, can I just be by myself? Can I be by myself so I can just have a chalkboard, you know, some lovely cereal and, you know, just a bit of sausage, some eggs, cook every now and then. And oh yeah, finish my spaceship. George Prince Michaels. I would not be shocked. I have done a George Michaels cover. So if you're looking for Freedom 90, it is in my catalog. I said I was going to do a sing along, but I have to talk about this because X has been so adamant about every time I sign on to X, it's Mars. Would you like to see another picture of Mars? Would you like to see a post about Mars? And I have to take it as, well, I should talk about it. I should talk about it because I want you to think about it. I want you to think about a future beyond the Earth. Because right now, this Earth present is not appealing. It's not appealing to me, and I know it's not appealing to you. I mean, you can't watch television shows about space travel and not think, well, why don't we? Hey, Ian. Hi, Ian. Oh, okay. One thing I can tell you about my spaceship is that I'm completely redesigning what a spaceship is. Because right now you have space shuttles. The problem with the NASA aeronautics. Wow, I'm so off. The the aeronautics that they designed there is that it's designed pretty much as a super plane or like a plane with like a bigger tank. That's what they came up with. That's the level of stupidity. And I say stupidity because they don't understand. You have to take our full habitat. You have to. You have to make sure that you have gravity, that you have food, that you have water, that you have radiation shielding, that you have solar panels for power and redundancy. You have a full medical bay. You have to build, I want to say, more of a submarine than a space shuttle. A space shuttle is just a plane with a big tank. That's it. And these people that go up to the space station, and the space station is just sad because no real science happens there anymore. It's just nonsense. I mean by real science, I mean just world-defining breakthroughs. Like, where is the cure for cancer? Where is the perfect alloy for cybernetic enhancements or, you know, replacement prosthetics for, you know, people like veterans who have had amputations? We need to do so much more than what we're doing right now, and it's because we have so few people who are actually interested. And Plays, thank you so much for coming in. I hope you come back another time. I appreciate when new people come in. Welcome to the revolution. Space submarine, I love it. That's pretty much how you have to think about it. The way I think about space is a little bit different from, I guess, most people. I don't really see it as a vacuum. I see it as a gravity gradient. Hello. Hello there. Singing today. I might get to it. I'm supposed to. I really am. I'm having a bit of a moment where I said I want to talk more about Mars because I want my fans to know that that's what I'm interested in. I just made a new album for today. I'm very happy that I made a new album. But I'm an engineer first and a musician second. The minute I get my benefits, I'm devoting myself entirely to being a space explorer, going to Mars, setting up the commute, and then heading to the next star. Because that's just what I want to do. Friends, and I'll do friends first, and then I'll do 7. I'll get to what you said there. Okay, Earth on steroids. I don't think you know exactly what I'm trying to go for. I'm trying to go for a reboot, like an absolute reboot. Like, I came to Los Angeles because Los Angeles is a huge county, and if anything, it is old, but they try to modernize it. They really do. They try and make it more modern than many other places. It still sucks to go downtown, and they have let that go so badly, but for the most part, once you get west of that, that is a very, very modern town. You've got robots everywhere. You've got wide open spaces. You can walk around. It's relatively safe. Like Los Angeles, I keep shitting on fucking Los Angeles, but it's only because I'm in the wrong part. I'm in the wrong part. But when I think about, because I actually have a petition to put a city on Mars, because I plan on living there at least for a year before I move on to the next thing. But the city that I'm trying to create is a city that is more advanced than what we have currently. Because currently, we're still using cars, and we're still in this mindset of, okay, so we need you here at 8 o'clock, and everything starts at 8 o'clock. And if you're not here by 8 o'clock, and blah, 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 blah. And that is not how the human body works. The human body works by saying, is the sun out or is the sun not there? Because if the sun's not there, I'm going back to fucking sleep. If the sun is out, then yeah, I'll show up. But until the sun is out, I'm not going there. And that sounds, oh my God, you know, such a difficult person, but that's how your human body works. And if you're on Mars, you're going to be thrown for a loop. But if I do things properly, you'll get your sleep. You'll finally be able to fucking sleep. If you need to sleep, you get sleep. Because that city is going to be automated. Everything is automated. Food production automated, power production automated. Just a reduction of just human resources, because humans are a resource. And guess what? We're being squandered on Earth. We're being squandered on Earth because on Earth, we are scraping together pennies to live in hovels. I mean, I'm not exactly huge on the whole commune thing or whatever, But I do think that if I lived in Mars or in a Martian city and money had no value, because what would money do for you on another planet? You can just raise the standard of living. For example, like people want like a giant flat screen TV. What would you do if everybody in your town had a giant flat screen TV? Everybody, you included. Would you still slave away extra hours? Would you try and juggle, paying for food or paying for a flat screen TV if the flat screen TV was provided? And what if you didn't have to pay for food anymore? And I know that that's a bit of a communist sort of, but that is where the people are going. That's where the future is. The future is not privately owned businesses. It's government or corporate owned. Would you be the mayor of Mars? It's only one city, so I can't really consider myself a governor of a colony. And besides, it wouldn't be a colony for me. If I moved there, it would be a completely different thing. I'm not bringing any flags with me. If people want to bring flags, if they decide to hitchhike with me, whatever. But I'm not making a colony for America. I'm really not. I'm not making a colony for England, for Canada, for any country. If you choose to go to Mars, you're choosing to experience something completely different. Completely different. Because it'll take so much to just raise that up and make something new. How can we go with you? Personally, I would like to go by myself. But I can't stop other people from going with me or whatnot. And besides, maybe I don't really want to go by myself. But my goal is not to stay on Mars. My goal is to go to Mars, set things up properly, specifically a power station, a hospital, a farm, food processing units, and the most incredible living quarters city recreational center ever. And then I'm going to the next place that I want to go to, further out in the solar systems, because that's just what I want to do. Why not? Why not? I mean, you get to a point where you just say to yourself, what do you spend your money on? What do you spend your money on? Because if you spend your money on electronics all your life, and those electronics are just made improperly, number one, and two, they're super expensive, and three, they're redundant in maybe a year or two, and then you have to buy the next one. And then while you're doing that, like, where's your life going? Like, where's this stuff supposed to go? I have to go in, I'm going to go read your petitions. Yep, in the descriptions are my petitions, because as I said, I'm an engineer. I'm looking to take things to the next level. If I get signatures for at least change.org/genius to Mars, I might be able to say to Cambridge, all right, I might be able to afford one semester there. For one semester there, let me at least use a lab. Let me use a lab, speak to some of your professors, and then go to Mars. I mean, I hate it that I'm pretty much saying that I would love to get my doctorate in physics and mathematics and medicine, but I don't really have that kind of time, so I just have to skip ahead to being an expert and go to the next planet, which is Mars. You know, all the time that I've spent waiting on this, once I make it happen, everything changes. Everything. Because if you go to another planet, doesn't it prove that anything is possible? Doesn't it prove that what you have always thought was rich and untrue wealth was false? Because where is the freedom in that? Rich people cannot move. They cannot move around. They cannot be themselves. They have to hold themselves to such a high standard, higher standard than regular people. I mean, people talk about celebrity status all the time. You don't know what that really means. I barely know what that means, and I have to deal with hecklers on a podcast about science. The level of stress from that is minimal, but I couldn't imagine being a celebrity that has to deal with letter after letter after letter of people who dislike you. I mean, that's a lot of... And it just makes you think, is it worth it? Is it? Because I make art because it's art therapy for me. It's a way to safely decompress and coordinate around emotions that are difficult. Hello, Mark. How are you? But once I'm on another planet, I think I'll have to decompress quite as much because, I'm in a pressurized area. So yes, I will continue the podcast. I won't probably spend most of my time singing on it, but I think I will have to spend more time talking about Mars, talking about why it's important for people to want to experience something new, to solve the great issues that we have, and to improve things like medicine, quality of life, and longevity. If sitting in traffic stresses you out to the point where your doctor says, you've got hypertension now, it's a lot easier to say, well, that's the food you eat and the diet that you have and the amount of exercise you get. It's harder to say, no, it's your city. If your city didn't have that much traffic, you'd be better. If you could just walk to wherever your destination is and then walk back, it might actually be good for you because then you're walking. I think that's the problem that we have, is that we have cars, we have planes, and these things have slowed us down because they're so convenient. It's so convenient to get into a car or to get into a plane that people have forgotten how slow they are. It's faster than sailing, but now nobody remembers how to sail. And that's also a problem. We're losing a lot and we're not gaining much by just continually doing this cycle of years and months and days and hours and seconds, which mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. The way to get back into touch with everything is to leave the Earth and reorient yourself to a new planet. And we should do this now. There is every reason to do this now. The longer we wait, the more it's just going to be, it's just going to be difficult. The problems that we have here, I almost, I hate being that person because I always say inappropriate things that no person who is in the public eye should ever say. But I'm losing my respect for several issues. I'm losing my respect for environmental issues. I'm losing my respect for even racial issues because I'm of that mindset now that America's just never going to get better. America is never going to change its mind about environmental issues. And it's never going to change its mind about race politics. But you can change. You yourself can change. When I think of how wonderful it'll be to be a person of color on another planet, I think about the inspiration that is for this present generation and the generations to come. And that we need that. We need to say, we looked at the issues that we have, the issues of police brutality and Black Lives Matter and the drug crisis and poverty and, you know, parents being incarcerated and schools neglecting our studies because, you know, they're not funded properly. But if you could see a person of color go to another planet, it will change your life. And it will change your life if you're, you know, just a white person too, or an Asian person. It'll change your life because it'll show you that you're worth more. You're obviously worth more. We're all worth more than what we are getting right now. Every Friday, if your boss hands you a check, what does that mean to you? Because every month I get my disability benefits and it's a dollar amount. It's something, but it's not the same exact thing as saying, okay, now I feel comfortable going out into the community and taking the money that I have and spending it at any local restaurant, local stores, local anything. It's just not the case because number one, I have PTSD, and two, you know, I have to deal with LA nonsense all the time, which just makes me not want to go out. But I'm not the only one. I know that there are a lot of people who struggle with PTSD or anxiety or depression. And I have to think that happiness in America should be a ballot issue. It should be an issue that you just talk about normally, but if you're not going to make that a ballot issue, if you're not going to discuss it with the same gusto as you do immigration or foreign aid, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Because our country was founded on the pursuit of happiness. America was founded on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to my estimation, we are failing on all three. Life is ruined by just stress, inequality, and injustice in America. Liberty is ruined by not having enough freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of information. And then the pursuit of happiness. we don't want to talk about the universal income, because if you talk about the universal income, you have to say, well, where does the money come from for that? But maybe that universal income is something more. Maybe instead of just handing people a check every Friday or whatnot, or saying you take a portion of your check in order to pay for health insurance, we start talking about making a health revolution. Medical technology that is better than what we have right now. Early detection for diseases, cures for some of these diseases, rehabilitation to a higher level for people who are recovering from a loss or something like that, or a debilitation. There's a social contract between the government and the governed. And we don't rebel. None of us really do. We wake up, we go to bed, we complain, we don't do anything. And nobody really wants to see a bloody revolution in the streets. Why? Because you know you'd lose. Everyone knows that you'd lose. And then America would have such a blight on its hands to see that. Because you already did a civil war. But there is the only other option. And the option is succession. If you choose to go to Mars like I am, then you're choosing to potentially move to another planet permanently. Or maybe go back, but I don't understand why you would. Because the Earth is a mess. America is a mess. And I'm very grateful that we do have President Trump in charge, because he is a solver of things, a tinkerer, someone who will dismantle things, at least, if anything, to wake you up and make sure that it matters to you. But America needs to be put back together again. And in 4 years, well, less, 3 years and a change months, there'll be somebody else in there. But what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Because if they're not of the mindset of, we need to put America back together again, we need to upgrade America to meet the challenges of now. If they're not of that mindset, then why are you still here? And I know that this isn't exactly what people want. They want to see me do a sing-along, and I'm sorry, I really am. But I feel like something like this has to be said, it has to be documented, and I don't mind. I'm not saying anything out of turn, I'm just speaking the truth. And the truth is that you can't live in a country that says, oh, we don't need to clean the sewers, we don't need to remove the smoke from the atmosphere, we don't need to check the water tanks that are in your town to make sure that there's no chemicals in them. We don't need to check any of that. Because when they say things like that, they're saying that you don't matter. And when you don't matter, that's a problem. Because you should matter to your government, you should matter to your village, your town. Which is why I want to found a city on Mars, because at least if you do that, you might have something that you care about. something sparkly new. So I'm going to keep asking about my benefits because I want a better life. I want an avenue out of here and into something truly magnificent. And that's what Life Among the Stars are. Not Hollywood, that's just gross. I'm talking about the actual stars. Going to Mars proves that you can live anywhere. And it also means that places of Earth that were uninhabitable before are definitely habitable now, with all the advancements that will come from going to Mars. And right now, we need options because America doesn't want to change, it doesn't want to grow, it doesn't want to do anything. That's an issue because I want to say Los Angeles is one of the last new cities that they have. I mean, you have things like Cupertino and the Google campus, whatever that is called, I don't know. But that's it. Those aren't really cities because unless you work for that company, then why are you there? And it's like, do you really want to work in that company? Because if you worked in that company, you would actually be able to experience a real modern city. And that's a problem because you need that level of modernity all throughout the country. Keep the historic points as they are, but we need to change. We need to change. There's a petition in my description, change.org/clear LA smog. It's a small little petition, but it's super powerful because it is saying to Los Angeles County, stop using asphalt and concrete, stop doing patchwork, build long-lasting roads that meet the needs of the motorists that have to go over it so that they don't damage their cars and then pollute more, because that's where all the pollution is coming from. Not all, but most of it. But nobody signs those petitions. Nobody cares. I care. But nobody really signs those petitions. And that's a problem. It's a problem because if nobody signs it, then I'm going to leave the petitions there, but then I'm also going to have to leave. I've already made my mind up that I was going to Mars, but I thought that I would have enough community support to make change here in Los Angeles. It appears that I do not. So unless that changes, I'm just going to have to focus on Mars. So that means that I will be changing my podcast and I'll talk more about engineering and physics than doing sing-alongs. I want to thank the fans that have stuck with me so far. My name is IanXIlyana. This is I Hate LA. Love me anyway. I will see you on the next podcast.